Dile que tú eres mía, mía, tú sabes que eres mía, mía. Tú misma lo decías cuando yo te lo hacía. Yeah, dile que tú eres mía, mía.
Yes, welcome to another great episode of the Ashish and Friends Book Club. To kick off February, we decided to read The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Darren Hardy is actually the driving force behind success.com and Success Magazine. And those are actually great tools. I love reading articles on them. And he's also has some great tools on thecompoundeffect.com. I have to check those out yet, but he mentions them in the book, and I'm looking forward to that. Ryan, what did you take away from this book, and what is this book about?
So the compound effect is about how your habits, your decisions, and your everyday activities compound to make who you are. He goes through how that looks in real life with a few examples, and then he breaks it down based on your habits, the people that influence your momentum, and so forth and so on, and breaks it down and puts all the pieces together and gives you an actual plan based on those different keys and factors to make that compound effect a reality your own life. It's a very fantastic book.
Yeah, I mean, just reading through it, I feel like a lot of podcasts and previous books that we read, just we read The Power of Habit in January, and I felt like there's a whole section about habits, and I was like, this is fantastic. Another book instilling how important habits are in your daily routine. So, what were your biggest takeaways from this book, Ryan?
I had three major takeaways from this book. The first one was that your habits and your disciplines and your everyday activities, which is the main point, define who you are. And I think it's a good segue from the power of habits and talking about habits because there's a quote in there that says the difference between who you are and who you want to be is what you do. And that's by Charles Duhigg from The Power of Habit. But I think that's key in this because this is showing everything you do on literally a daily basis, every one of your decisions will eventually inevitably compound into changing you, whether it's just eating an extra cookie a day or even cutting that cookie. It will not only affect one aspect, but multiple aspects in your life.
Yeah, and for our returning listeners, if you heard last book club podcast, I dropped the same quote, and I felt like it's so powerful to listen to because when you think about it, it's like, how do I get from where I am to where I want to be? It's what you do on a daily basis, right? It's not, something Darren Hardy also talks about quite often. It's just how like nowadays we want the quick way to get successful, to lose the weight, whatever, the 30-minute, the three payments of, $9.99 or whatever it is. But like it is a daily thing. It takes time to get there, but that keep doing it, keep going through it every single day, and one day you'll get to where you want to be.
There's a great quote about consistency that Mr. Hardy gives in the book. And it's consistency is the key to achieving and maintaining momentum. And I think that's the key to compounding your effect because it's easy to do something for one day. It's hard to do it for 30 days, 60 days, 1 year. But if you're consistent in doing it, then you gain that momentum to be able to continue to do that and be successful in whatever endeavor you choose to do. So I think that's really key in this compound effect that this book revolves around.
I totally agree. We always hear it. Consistency is always key, right? And when we talk about habits, when we talk about choices, you can definitely see that. And like I said, the last two books we've read a lot about how important consistency is. What is your third point, Ryan?
Uh, so my third point is that to be able to make that compound effect and to make it easier, the people that you're with will help either make that easier or harder. And I love the point where he's like, don't make a 3 minute person a 3 hour person. And I think it's knowing who you're hanging out with and if they're a positive or negative influence on you. Because if they're a negative influence on you, then your activities and your daily habits may be influenced by that, and that could bring you down. And on the contrary, if they're a positive influence, you can do the opposite of that, which should be very beneficial. So it's being able to identify that and being able to keep the people that are positive to you and eliminate those that aren't in a nice way.
Yeah, no, I totally love that, and I think we always talk about that, right? From a childhood, you get the bad apple story of hanging around with the wrong crowd or whatever, and I think it is right on a daily basis. The people you interact with, the coworkers, your friends, whatever it is, they all influence how your day goes and how your life goes. And like we talk about compounding, if you feel negative every single day with the people you talk with or your coworkers, over time you're going to feel even worse and worse and worse, right? On the other hand, if you hang out with great people that push you and support you, and you spend a lot of time with and enjoy that time, then your life's going to be happier, and you're going to be enjoying that time. So I think those are solid points that you mentioned. A couple for me, throughout the book, he mentions a couple of formulas that are very key, so I want to touch on those real quick. The first being small, smart choices plus time plus consistency equals radical difference. So easy there, right? Making choices on a daily basis, having the time, doing it over a long period of time, and doing it consistently every single day, right? That will create a radical difference. And he gave an example to start off the book about three guys, right? We had Larry, Scott, and Brad, all the same, height, weight, all made 50,000 a year. They're all married, and all three did different things, right? Larry never changed. All right, he wanted a better job. He wanted all these things, but he never wanted to change. He never did anything, and this is for like over 2 years, right? Scott, ended up listening to Dr. Oz, and he's like, I'm going to cut out 125 calories per day, right? And I'm also going to spend some time listening to podcasts or reading some books or, just getting some new knowledge, right? And Brad, he enjoyed himself too. He said, I kind of want to have a drink every single day, right? I like wine. I'm going to drink wine every single day. And I'm going to start cooking as from my favorite TV shows. I'm going to start cooking like these baked goods and desserts and sweets, and I'm going to eat them too, right? And we saw that, after 5 months, this is what Darren Hardy is saying here, but like after 5 months, there's not a huge difference, right? All three are basically still the same. They're all still in the same life from the beginning point. But it's when you hit the 18th month, the 24-month period, and 31st, where you see all these drastic changes. Larry is still at the same place where he was from where he started, right? After 2.5 years, he's still the same person, right? The only difference is he's just a little bit more depressed because he's looking at people like Scott and being like, oh, what if I did the same thing, right? Like, where could I be right now? Scott ended up losing 33 pounds because he did cut out just 125 calories per day, right? And that over time, one day, 1 week, doesn't seem like a huge deal. After like a year, after 2 years, you start seeing that difference. You feel healthier and whatever. He also put, I think, over 1,000 hours of just learning new stuff, right? Self-education via podcasts, via books. And he got like a promotion at work, and he's feeling good. He was happy. Whereas on the other hand, Brad, who was drinking an extra 125 calories via wine, who's eating cooked, baked goods, sweets, all these things, he ended up adding 33 pounds, right? He also got like, I think he's very upset with work. He's getting a divorce just because the ripple effect of all these things over time, they make a huge difference. So when we talk about consistency, when we talk about having these small, smart choices, they seem invisible at the time, but as time progresses, you get to see that.
I think that's a perfect, short, sweet analogy to describe the whole book and to start the book off, to keep in the back of your mind, going through all the sections and applying it. And I think it's true. I mean, I think it makes you appreciate more of the small changes you do every day and what that can affect you in the long run.
Yeah, exactly. One thing he talks about later on in the book is like the toe dipping of into small effects, or taking a big plunge, right? But like just the small effects every single day, it can lead to a drastic difference. And reading that example to like kick off the book was just eye opening to me, right? It's not something you really think about all the time. The second formula he mentioned later on was preparation, personal growth, plus belief in mindset and attitude, plus opportunity and action equals luck, right? And something we always talk about is like, oh, I'm unlucky or I'm lucky. Something he mentioned, Richard Branson says, like, we're all born with luck, right? It's basically what you do with that luck and taking that action to get there. And one nice quote he added there from Arnold Palmer was, the harder I work, the luckier I get. So it's important that, don't think, oh, I'm unlucky or this person's lucky, that's why it's happening. Like we could all be lucky, right? And that just takes hard work. It is taking action with the right opportunities and having, that belief mindset in those opportunities and attitude. That attitude is just so key.
Yeah, I think the key word is being prepared and being present and having that attitude in those moments, because you never know when the opportunity arises. But if you're not prepared, you're like, oh, I'm not even going to go to this, or I'm not even going to do my due diligence, then you're never going to get lucky, because you're never going to be prepared or present in that opportunity to be lucky in. And I think the attitude is very key, because you can be in opportunities, they don't work out, but at least you can learn something from it. There's always a silver lining at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's totally the point, right? Like luck is based on you.
And that's a mindset to keep.
Yeah, no, for sure, exactly, and all the luck is based on you, right? I think it's all within yourself. It is, seeking those opportunities, having that good mindset, and taking the action, and then we can all become super lucky. The third one he talked about later on was you plus your choices plus your behavior, plus your habits compounded is equal. It gets you to your goal. It equals goals, right? So like you and your choices on a daily basis, right? Your behavior over time, and those habits that you're doing all the time, right? Once you compound all that, you can reach your goals, right? When you're asking like, how do I get to my goals? How do I, get where I want to be? It is the daily grind, right? And it's sometimes you lose. He even mentioned it. Sometimes it's mundane. Sometimes it's, you feel bored. Sometimes it's really hard. But the growth happens when it is super hard, right? It happens when, all this nightly studying of what you want to become, of taking in all these podcasts and books and whatever. But like that's what gets you to your end goal is that daily grind of it.
Yeah, and I think it can be very daunting if you just have this really big goal in front of you, but you don't know the path or the steps you need to take. For example, one that comes in the top of my head. Oh, I want to be in the NBA. Well, that's really daunting. How do you get in the NBA? But if I say, hey, let's just start out by 30 minutes a day, going to the gym, shooting some hoops, doing some dribbling and playing one 5-on-5 game, and to start there, that seems more possible to do than, hey, we're just going to jump in the NBA. I mean, that's tough. You're like, how do I start? So I think, and then that was sort of compound. You start to get better, start to get skilled. I think just having that mindset and that work ethic, because nobody's born with skills and the tools at that point to be something. Someone's a beginner. That's one of my favorite. Someone's always a beginner. You start as a beginner. Even if the NBA right now, if they're businessmen right now, entrepreneur that's a millionaire, they didn't start with that. They worked their way up. So
Yeah.
I think that's a mindset you have to take in these things.
No, I love that. I feel like we read that in The Power of Habit too, right? Like everyone
Mm-hmm.
started from somewhere. Everyone was a beginner at some point. Actually, this Muhammad Ali poster in the back right here, it's a quote of Muhammad Ali, like looking at his opponents, getting ready for his next fight. But the point is, the bottom line of that quote is he says, you have to have skill, you have to have will, you have to have, all these powers and whatever. But he said the will has to be stronger than the skill. It's all within yourself. So yeah, I absolutely love that. Just a couple of things that he mentions throughout the book that I just wanted, really stood out to me, and I want to share here. It's a quote from Jim Rohn saying, "Formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune." You know, it's all about investing in yourself. It is taking the time out of your days, out of your weeks to invest in yourself, right? Via podcast, via reading books, via whatever it is you're trying to do. You have to spend that time on yourself.
Yeah, I love how he mentioned Jim Rohn and that he was his mentor, and he mentioned that very like clearly and very proudly in that book, and I love that. And he also mentioned, to tag along with that quote, Jim Rohn said, "Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better," and that's part of a longer quote. But I think that kind of blends in with that quote, as in like you can always be better, you can always learn more, you can always do more. It's not going to be easy, but you can be the person to make it happen.
So yeah, Darren actually dedicated the book to two people, and one was his dad, who actually raised him by himself. Right when he was 18, I think 18 months old, that's when his mom actually left the family. So that was just incredible. And the second was to his mentor, Jim Rohn, which he had like a bunch of quotes in the book about. Right, obviously you can see the influence there. A couple other things that I actually do on my own right now, but it's just like the education versus entertainment, right? We have a choice to spend hours watching TV, taking in all this news and whatnot, or we can spend that time investing in ourselves, right? So something I've done is in the past year, I kind of quit some of my streaming services that I'd been using. Netflix, right? It's good. You get some documentaries here and there, but like a bunch of it is just, to keep up with everyone, to talk to friends about. And that's great. But like, I really don't have that time right now, right? That time's better used working on myself. Something Ryan and I talk about all the time is just checking out educational videos on YouTube or cool sites and stuff to learn from, because I think that's just so important. One thing he also talked about was my world versus the world, right? Some things we can't really help on our own right now, right? Wars going on, things going on, these like right now during this pandemic, right? There's nothing I can do to create like the news vaccine to get it out everywhere, right? But that's just depressing stuff. When you look at the news on a nightly basis in the morning to kick off your day, right? People kick off their day by reading the news. A lot of the time, it's just all depressing, sad stuff. And he even talked about working with like a CEO of a company, and the guy spent like 3 hours a day, taking in the news. And he's like, you're better, you could definitely like increase your productivity and everything and be more successful if you limit that time. Growing up, we used to watch the news all the time at night, and I kind of quit that too, because it's like, why am I spending the night before, an hour before I go to sleep watching like really sad and depressing things? Those are things I can't really help right now, and it's just affecting my mental health.
Definitely the information that you take in, whether it's from the television, from your peers, from people you see, wherever you're getting it, affects you as a person, affects the way you think, affects your mood. So, I mean, all that is to take into consideration. It's something you can reflect upon and maybe make some changes.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's something you touched on too. It's kind of like the influences in our lives. Something Darren Hardy also talks about here is like what you are and who you become is based on really three influences, right? What you feed your mind, right? So when we talk about not watching the news and spending more time listening to podcasts, reading books, learning whatever it is, that's important, right? That's the one key factor there. The second is who you spend time with, right? You touched on, don't make a 3 minute person a 3 hour person, right? So those are things like the people you spend time with on a daily basis, weekly basis, whatever it is, they really, you might not think about it, but they really affect who you become, right? And they can either help you get to where you want to be, or they might be, slowing you down. Lastly would be your environment, right? And that could be your work environment or other time you spend time at, right? Like how those people, how that community is really affecting you and how you feel in that. So those three influences can really affect your life, and I think that's something we can all try to spend time reflecting on.
100% agree.
Love it. And there's last two things real quick. We talked about willpower and, why power, right? This is something he talks about here. And I, just last week, we were talking about Kobe a little bit, and I watched some interviews of his. And, there's an example of the interviewer asked Kobe, he's like, Kobe, you tore your Achilles against the Warriors, right? He came back, shot 2 free throws, and walked off the court by himself, right? Which we really never seen anyone done, right? When you tear your Achilles, it's scary, right? You need to be helped off. Your career is at danger, whatever it is. And the interviewer asked Kobe, he's like, Kobe, how were you able to do that? And Kobe said, hey, in that moment, I was just focused on the game, right? The game is my life. And, when you think about in a house, he gave this example, Kobe did. Like if you're in a house, you're injured, you don't really want to move, right? You're just trying to recover, you're trying to rest or whatever. But if that house is on fire, right, and your children are upstairs, you're going to forget all your injuries, all your pains, all your aches are just going to go to the side. You're not going to worry about that. What you're going to be worried about is getting up there, getting your kids out of the house and being safe, right? And just like Darren Hardy mentioned, he said, hey, if I asked you, if I gave you $20 to, cross a bridge between two high, skyscrapers, right? I'll give you $20 if you cross the bridge. You'd probably say no, right? It sounds scary, right? Well, why would I only for $20? Why would I do that? That's scary. I'm personally scared of heights, so that's a hell no for me. But he's mentioned, all right, let's change the scenario, right? If your kids are across the bridge, I'm telling you to go run over there and save them, right? They're at danger. You'd risk everything, right? So I think this is a good example that he mentioned, but like how important your why is, right? What is your why? And he mentioned, it probably shouldn't be monetary or, something you can hold on to. It's usually something way deeper. And that should be the first thing you think about when you wake up. Why am I excited about this? Why am I doing this? And that's going to keep you going for the grind, right? The long term, every day, even short term, right? Every day, long term, whatever it is. But like that why is what's going to keep you going. And I think it's so important. And like, I think we all talk about how important your why is, right? And it's just sometimes really hard to find. I think even for me personally, for like the better part of the last decade, I've always struggled finding out what is my why, right? Because sometimes I put like a monetary type thing, like, oh, I'm making this much, this is why I want to do that, or I want to buy this is why this is my why. But I think it has to come from like a deep rooted thing within you to be a formidable why.
Sometimes the spiritual or non-tangible why, because sometimes the material, tangible whys can be very fleeting. And once you reach that goal, then what's the next why? And that can be tough. But if you have a strong why, that creates that momentum and the consistency, because you have a reason why every day you're making this change. Every day you're doing this one action because you have this strong why that, and maybe it's a why that you can never attain. Maybe it's a spiritual or a mental type of thing that's really not attainable, but you're trying to get as close as you can. But I think that's very, very key. Or what's the point of doing anything if you don't really have a reason to do it?
And yeah, that's a good point. I think yeah, the why is just so important, and I love how he called it why power, not willpower, right? And just to close this why talk. There's this Mark Twain quote that I always loved, and it said the two most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. Boom. Like that is I never used to think about that, but I'm like, wow, like so when you find out your why, like that is the second most important day of your life. Like then from that point on, you can always be like, this is my why. That's the day I found out about it, and I think it's just awesome. The last point here I want to mention here, Darren Hardy mentions this. Like I love. Okay, I'll talk about this in the things I like that he does. But like I think one thing right off the bat, he likes to bring up things he's already talked about. Right? You hear him mention the ripple effect. He explains what it is early on in the book. He brings it up throughout the book. Right? He even says ripple effects. Another thing he mentions is hard work, discipline, and good habits. Right? And he said how previous generations, like especially our grandparents, they really lived off these three things, right? And that's something our generations and future generations kind of lost, right? And that really resonated with me because I saw all these three things within my grandma, right? I spent nearly all my life with my grandma, someone I adored the most out of anyone here. But yeah, hard work, right? She used to tell me stories of how back in India, right, with her 8 children and all the village people, like all the kids she raised on her own as well, she used to wake up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. every single day, right? And had to do all these lists of things before her kids even woke up, right? After her kids woke up, then she had to like make them breakfast and lunch, dinner, and all these other things she used to do all the time. So I know the hard work she's put in. And sometimes I think our generation kind of forgets that, right? Like how long it took us to get where we're at right now and we feel comfortable and whatever. But like all the sacrifices our ancestors, parents, grandparents, all of them made. But I just love talking to, older people because I feel like they have so many lessons and so much experience that we can learn from. Secondly, the discipline. The discipline of waking up every single day at 4 a.m., right? The discipline of even I saw, the past few years with my grandma, right? She had a time for breakfast. She had a dedicated time for lunch and prayers and all this thing. Like once it hit 5 o'clock, she knew it's time to pray, right? And I feel like, oh, it's 9 o'clock, it's time to sleep. Like she kept this every single day, and you can ask any one of my family members. And that's just one thing that really stood out to me was that even throughout her whole life, she's just super disciplined in what she did. And this like I said, this also helps people like us when we want to learn something, putting in that time and effort every single night, even when we're exhausted from a hard work day and long work day. All these bad things happen to us in one day. The discipline to still learn and do what we need to do every single day in and out is super key. And the good habits, right? I feel like we talked about in The Power of Habit in this book, developing these good habits, it can be hard to do, right? He gave an example of, how sometimes we become so rooted in these bad habits, it's hard to break them, right? So it's so important to implement these good habits from the as soon as we can and just, build on those. But, one good habit, I used to think about my grandma all the time is every single night she used to brush her teeth, right? It's something I sometimes forget to do, right? But even in her 90s, she was just like, before I go to sleep, I need to brush my teeth. I'm just like, it becomes so instilled over her whole life that you just automatically want to do it. You need to do it. And I was just like, I was impressed because I'm like, yo, it was Friday night. I forgot to brush my teeth on it, before I went to sleep. But it's so important to do. But those three things I think are really key in anyone's life: hard work, discipline, good habits.
I hit the nail on the head on that explanation. Yeah, I think the discipline's the hardest part, but once you're able to nail it and keep that momentum and consistency, like he always alludes to in the book, I think that's where the results start to shine through and it starts to uh, add up and compound together.
Yeah, no, for sure. And right before we move on to the next thing here, one thing I've learned is that discipline is more important than motivation, right? Motivation is like that little push, the little gas pedal. You're just getting a little extra motivation every day. But motivation doesn't last, right? I can be really motivated today to go run, but like tomorrow I might not be motivated. I might be tired or whatever. But discipline is me waking up every single day, 5 a.m., to go run, right? Like no matter what, rain, sleet, whatever, however I feel, good, bad, I'm going to do it. Whereas motivation, you're kind of like lifting your spirits and like, oh, I'm happy and jolly. I'm going to do it today. But once you lose that motivation, then what, right? Then you kind of slump back into who you are. So I think discipline's super key in anything you do. So let's talk about our likes, dislikes, any other things we want to talk about in the book, and give our ratings here. So I'll go first. I love how short this book is. Honestly, I feel like only 160 pages. This is like so valuable, right? Like I mentioned, in a lot of things I've read already. Darren Hardy talked about tracking things. That's something I read in Tim Ferriss's books, right? He likes to track, his workouts, the things he's eating over years. And I feel like that's a good thing. Darren Hardy talked about. We talked about the law of attraction, right? That's something I just listened to a podcast I listened to, and a lot of the things I listened to these podcasts in the past few weeks were in this book, right? So I feel like this, for only 160 pages, you get a lot of good details and like a lot of good information. Obviously, he's the driving force behind Success Magazine and interview like the top industry leaders, right? So he knows what it takes to get there. So I feel like this is a very small book. You get a lot of information here. The only thing I disliked is kind of like the style of the book. There's like only 6 chapters, but there's like each paragraph really has like its own little subheader, right? Which I thought was a little annoying to me. It's a very minor detail here, but it wasn't my favorite thing to read. But I also enjoyed the resource guide he added at the end of the book, and like I mentioned earlier, he has a lot of good tools on thecompoundeffect.com. So I'm interested in that too. My rating on the book is a 4.9. I gave out a 5 last time, so I was like, oh, I don't want to do a 5 again. But honestly, this is 5 worthy, but I'm going to go with a 4.9. I think it's just a really solid book, and I'd recommend it to anyone. I think this is another book anyone can gain anything from, right? Like, a single chapter could really change your life here. And he even mentioned, I think, the best chapter or the best section is just taking 100% ownership in everything you do. And I feel like that's the biggest takeaway from this book. Like, if anything, take that and your whole life will change. But 4.9, amazing book. I'm so glad we read this.
Yeah, so for me, I didn't actually have any dislikes for this book. That it wasn't detracting for me having the sub headings in the chapters, because I think he gave so many different examples, whether it was abstract, whether I love that he gave personal examples, like, hey, I did this myself, and this is what I did, and this is how it played out. I mean, he gave one with like his wife. He like wanted to appreciate her, love her more, and he kept a journal, and he showed her that, and I think it was amazing. He was personable. Like, you felt personable with him from the book, and that can be very hard to do. And he's very open and sharing his experiences. Also, at the end of every chapter, he had some actionable item there for you to do to be able to start your own journey and your habits and your compound effect sort of deal. So I thought that was great. And then lastly, I I echo the shortness of the book. It was to the point. I think he had a point, and she made that point. He made it clear. He gave you the action items, and then yeah, that was a good point you mentioned about the that you're 100% ownership. I really love that quote, because I think it was mentioning in terms of marriage as the example, and it was like, are you 50-50 with your wife, or are you 100? Like, everybody's 50-50, and the guy was like, no, you're 100%, because if you're not 100%, then you don't leave it up to yourself. You don't have full control, and it can collapse. When you're 100%, you have full control over something. And I'm like, that's great, like a great mindset. You don't leave it in other people's hands. You leave it in yours.
Exactly. It was about relationships, and I loved how he talked about you can do this about anything in your life, right? Your friendships, your work, whatever it is. You just have to be 100%, share the responsibility. It's on you. What you do, how you react, it's all on you, and I think that's really important here. And yeah, 2 things I forgot to mention. He does have some sass and some humor throughout the book too, which is really awesome. I enjoy that. And yeah, the actionable items are fantastic, right? Because when you read a good book, there's so much good information. You're like, oh, this is great for my knowledge. But like the actionable items, like you read, he tells you, do this right now, right? How you're feeling, think about this thing, do this, do this, do this. And I feel like every book should be like that, right? Because I feel like when you see the action steps and you take them, you're progressing to where you want to be. Yeah, so I really love that stuff. So what is your rating of this book, Ryan?
So for me, this is gonna be my first fiver. The
Yes.
5. I just loved it. Like I said, it's to the point. You learn a lot. You get actionable items, and you feel like he's just talking to you. You know, like you find, like you said, you have the sass, his humor, his voice in it, his stories. Right. So I really like that. And then something I started doing because of this book, I went to his website and I'm subscribed to his Darren Daily to get like his motivational, inspirational quotes and actionable things he sends via email. So I'm kind of excited to see what that leads me to. And he mentioned in his welcome video that he's like, I'm not giving you like any extra information because I know you already have the tools to be successful. It's about motivating you and pulling those out of you to be able to do so. So I'm excited to see what that lends itself to and how that's going to affect me.
Wow, I'm gonna have to sign up for those emails too. Like for a long time, I even told you before that we even read this book. I told you about success.com because it's there's some really good articles I check out every so often. I think it's something I should do way more often. But like there's really good articles on there. I enjoyed the audiobook too. He actually narrated the version on Amazon Audible. Obviously, I'm not a paid sponsor here, but hey, Amazon, hit me up. We could change things. But I really enjoyed that because he added some cool tidbits that weren't in the book. But yeah, I just really enjoyed the book, and I think it's fantastic. It's definitely worthy of a 5. I'm glad you gave it here. Yeah, I just simply love the book. And when you think about compound effect, you could literally write like a two-page book about it, right? Like it's a very simple statement. So I think the fact that you get so much knowledge from 160 pages is just amazing. But that wraps up this great episode here. Next up, we've got Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, and it's a reader, all right? Like this is not something you can just sleep through here. This is gonna take, we were talking about this. You have to sit at a desk and really study this stuff, but I'm looking forward to it, and we hope you join us next time as well. Until then, we're out. See ya.
Dile que tú eres.